So that's Charles Owusu-Kumi interacting with some members of Parliament from the other side. That's the minority side. And a bit we'll speak to some other members from the other side, which is the current majority side. So guys, those are some sights and scenes from Parliament. Earlier we were speaking about some of the takeaways from the speech. I was asking you guys whether you feel that the president had touched on some of the issues that a lot of people, were not happy with whilst he was in government, leading to what we saw in terms of the outcome of the elections. I was listening to him on the part about the banking sector cleanup, where he said it wasn't a vendetta, but something that had to be done, and nobody lost their money after the cleanup, which is another interesting statement and all that. But Sky, you on the floor on whether he had touched on the key things that people wanted answers to.
So, for instance, he's spoken about infrastructure, and one of the things I saw, which is commendable, 12,000 kilometers of roads built, according to him. And then also spoke about still infrastructure, the renovation or the expansion of the Takoradi port. He sort of attempted to speak about the Keta port, which he said preparatory works were underway. But I think that was, he ought not have mentioned it at all, with the greatest respect to him.
Why not?
Because we kept people, skeletal staff at post, as people working to develop the sport. We're paying them. We saw a signpost erected. If you go to the Keta area, you see the site. Nothing has been done really to see, so that people can see that the port is going up. And if after 8 years in office, people have been paid, and you are delivering to us an address on the state of the nation, nothing significant has come out of that beyond preparatory works, I think it doesn't speak well of your record if you mention it as one of the things that you sort of achieve, because really there's no achievement. The people there are not happy about the fact that so many things have been said, people have been paid, virtually nothing has been done in terms of concrete action on the ground to ensure that there is this construction. Of course, one of the biggest things that we saw when they were coming into office was the question of the legacy debt that they needed to deal with within the energy sector. The criticism was that the Mahama administration was leaving so much debt, which was going to cripple the energy sector. And the projections, as he stated, was around 12.5 billion US dollars. If, the estimates were anything to go by, we're likely to hit that point. But as we speak, he tells us that we're seeing something around 2.5 billion US dollars, right? Now, between the projection and what the reality is today, I mean, you can say that that is commendable if you believe that something dramatic has happened within that space as to ensure that we see light all the time. Then he makes the claim that, look, when I came in, power was off, but I've been able to keep the light on. Of course, we have seen intermittent power problems, the government refusing to give us a timetable. When we said it, the minister then for the sector told us, my friend, if you believe that you want a timetable, go and create one. In any event, you doom so it is not as doom and all of that. A mark of disrespect, if you like, towards the government. One of the reasons people would have voted against this administration. Then also raise very, very important issues about the achievements he believes he's been able to record in the education sector. As I was saying, we are told that 5.7 million Ghanaians have benefited directly from either the TVET or the senior high school, free senior high school policy consolidated. And as I was saying much earlier, in 10 years, 20 years, the people who are products of this system will become the men and women who will be leading affairs either internationally or locally, and will then be able to assess whether they are worthy of the investments that we have made in them, or that this whole policy has been a major, a failure. Of course, I mean, as someone whose parents, you heard, Honorable Marking also shares experience that he was struggling with the parents to be able to pay his fees. I had a similar situation. So I can relate to the difficulty of getting, funding for education at that level, and even going up the ladder, some of the difficulties that come up.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the fact that this has been a worthy investment, except that as a person, I have serious difficulty with the very open-ended nature of the policy, which is to say, let everybody go, instead of saying, let's do targeting. Of course, the new government talks about reviewing the policy when they come in. We hope that they will take some of these criticisms on board so that we can have a better...
Okay, I'll come back to you guys, but let me go back to Parliament. Nia Ikwe Okana, parliamentary correspondent, earlier spoke to some members of Parliament from the other side, which is the current majority side. He started with Patrick Wama, MP for Kankwe Central. So that's our parliamentary correspondent, Nia Ikwe Okan, with the member of Parliament for this constituency, actually Tesano, the Honourable Patrick Wama, so Okankwe Central, giving us his thoughts around the President's final speech, Nana Akufo-Addo. So, gentlemen, Sky, quickly, you're done. Let me come.
Oh, yeah, well, just to mention diplomatic, what they call it, regional leadership. I think that's something to celebrate. Of course, President Mills played his part in setting up the building that eventually became the headquarters of the AFTA Secretariat, if you like. But lobbying to make sure that he came to Ghana, Nanado played his part, and it's a great thing to celebrate. And then, of course, Shelley Ayoko Butchie becoming the head of the Commonwealth Secretariat. Although some people believe that this institution is losing significance on the global stage, the fact is it is still a robust institution within the Anglo. How do you what's the word? Was it? Is it the Anglophone? If like you know. Yeah. And it has its own voice and place in the Committee of Nations. So I think that is also something that we should celebrate. Then democratic maturity, which you spoke about. That you have all kinds of problems around us, yet we had challenges with elections, but we've been able to pull it off. Condemned the violence that we saw immediately after the elections, and then also celebrated Dr. Bawumia for calling 14 hours or so after the elections to concede defeat. Although beyond that, he didn't celebrate him much. One would have thought that merely celebrating him, as all diplomatic missions are doing because of that gesture he made, I mean, very, very pivotal in our affairs. And then also, very finally, one other thing that he pointed out, economic recovery. Of course, as I was telling you in the morning, COVID is one thing they preach a lot as having undermined the efforts that they made in their first term. He related to that and still says that, look, despite the challenges, they've been able to make difficult decisions. Combine that with what happened in the banking sector, which you mentioned much earlier. Look, I think the concession has got to be made that beyond saying that we have saved the banking sector, real lives have been destroyed. There are people who can't just feed their families today because they've lost their jobs. It is okay if depositors have been given their money, because I do know people who still have their money in there, they have still not been paid. But beyond ensuring that people receive their money, there are homes that have been wrecked, marriages that have been destroyed as a result of that intervention. Some people believe that it could have been handled in a better way, as to save jobs, save people's deposits, and then also ensure that the banking sector was also protected. So the way he framed it gave the impression as though, yes, we've been able to save the banking industry and we've been able to save depositors' money, without actually considering the fallout, how those affected families, real lives, have been altered as a result of that. And that would have been a concession that ideally he ought to have made. But I will leave it here. So
let me bring in Bernard. Concessions, apologies, and all that is something people have been asking for a bit now. You think, I didn't really hear much of concessions in his speech, and of course the apology, no. But same for you?
I don't think it's in the nature of the man to do an apology based on what Sky has said to us. I mean, he sees Parliament as the place where we play out the banter.
Pound for pound.
So for him, he did. You don't expect him to come and say he's not done well. The humbling and chastening nature of the electoral defeat of the MPP, I think, is the greatest state of the nation. It's not about what you say, it's about what people feel. It's not about the... You can do a lot as a government, but the people's verdict is very clear that they are not happy with what they've seen. All right. So for me, he said he will speak his facts. Those who are shouting can also speak their facts. So there's a bit of politics on both sides. So I'm not even sure we can legislate on whether he's done this on this sector or not. I think we've had a long period of politicking, and we should put the politicking behind us. We could have chosen to use the State of the Nation to say, look, I came to meet a nation at this stage and I'm leaving at this stage. He tried to do that in terms of 2016 to 2024, all right? But you can argue that, well, the work you did in 2017 up to 2020 was rewarded by you winning 2020. So you are accounting technically for 2021 to 2024. So it's very selective if you say, for example, that when I came, reserves in 2016 was 6.2 and now it's 8. Okay, what was it in 2020? Because the mandate was renewed for you to take us from there. So what I'm saying that if we can split us on those things. I'm not sure people were even paying attention to those details because the argument is over.
Yeah.
The argument has finished. Yeah. Whether this what you did was better than somebody, the people have basically decided. So I think it's more a question of putting it into perspective. And he started it well when he spoke about security and some of the key issues. But of course, it went into some of those record comparisons. I'm not sure State of the Nation is about record comparison. It should be more about the long-term agenda. We want our nation to have literate people, and free SHS is going to set us there. We want to be debt-free. We are going to move away from there. Not in the limited sense of what NDC did and what I did. It should be more about what our national development goals are as a people, our aspirations for economic independence and sovereignty. I feel like that's what you should use it for. Because State of the Nation, you put on your hat as head of state. So if I had my way, and I was part of a speech that I've said, focus more on the long-term things he's tried to do. The long-term structural changes. He spoke about the Gettysburg economy when he took over in 2017. What does he try to do to change that? As against, we met this when NDC came, we've come to do this. That's also true. And I'm not downplaying that, but I'm saying that, you see, when you have done 8 years in power, in a country that's in this development journey, you should try and situate your work as part of that continuum. Nkrumah did this, Rawlings did this, Akufo-Addo did this, Mills and Mahama did this, and I'm trying to do this so that we can get there in 30 years. I prefer that. That's more, because we are talking about the nation.
Yeah, but Bernard, I mean, that's to be forward-looking, which has its own place. But you are giving an account of what you have been able to do. If you listen to the language of the Constitution, an address to Parliament on the state of the nation, the state of affairs. So yes, I mean...
No, okay, see, I'm saying that if you want to do that, then stick to the 4 years. Because you are accounting for the 8th Parliament. You took over as president in 2021. So I'm saying two things. I would have preferred a longer term view of structural issues. So he dealt with that in the Constitution, for example, when he spoke about not over tweaking it. But if you want to be strict and political, then we can say that your mandate was renewed in 2020. So the ground zero for you is 2020. So don't come and tell us that when you took over in 2016, Mahama did do so, but now you are doing this. Do you understand? It's self-serving, it's selective. If you are going to do the short term, compare your 2024 to where you picked us in 2020.
No, so that you then...
I'm expressing my view.
You understand. Okay.
I'm saying that if you wanted to do long term, which I think is the preferred way to go, you've done 8 years of a long-term 30-year democracy. This is where we are. We must consolidate. This is what we must build on. The new leader must do this and that so that the country can transition from having good government into economic prosperity, whatever. But if you choose to do me versus NDC, then NDC can also say technically that, well, in 2020, your mandate was renewed. So don't come and point us back to 2016.
You see, that's what I wanted to just chip in quickly on. You see, the Constitution talks about a 4-year term, which is renewable. So in all, you are looking at a span of what? 8 years. Although that into 2. If the people are happy with you, they renew it. If they are not happy, they throw you away. If they renew it, you are not entitled to a further term. Do you understand? So Mahama is coming back for an additional 4 years. Now, what presidents have been able to do over the years is to account for when he came into office, and when they are leaving, and at the state of affairs when they came to what they came to meet and what they are leaving behind and what they hope to achieve with the incoming administration. So perhaps we should look at it that way.
I'm saying two things. I'm saying that there's nothing wrong with doing a 4-year account or 8-year account. I just feel like we've had enough politics between 2023 to now. We've had elections. So you are bowing out as head of state. You can show us the role you play in our long-term transformation in accounting for your 8 years without it being about what the person who did before me did and I've done better. That argument has been settled at the polling station.
Yeah, we say what you are forgetting.
So what I'm saying, I'm not. We have two different views. I'm not even arguing a legal point. I am saying that as a question of style. To crown your 8 years, we are in a developmental journey that began even before the British came. One of the most profound things Akufo-Addo said when he took over in 2017 was that we had a Gettysburg economy. So I'm saying it would have been nice for us to tell us how far we have gone in changing that in the 8 years, without necessarily being a reference to what Muhammad did. Because it's a continuum, it's a long continuum of our journey to economic emancipation, which I think is what your final speech should focus on more than to say, when I came, this guy did this and I did that, so I'm better than him. That argument has been settled at the polling station.
No, is it better? When you add the argument about the polling station, then you are looking at the thing in a vacuum.
No, it's politics.
No. So here's the point. What he said today is evidence, according to him and the law, of his record as in what he's been able to achieve, because it is read into the Hansard, which will become a final authority as to what he believes he's been able to achieve. Now, we can have all kinds of views about it.
I'm not even saying what he's doing is illegal. I'm just saying that I preferred him to show us, in terms of our structural transformative journey, what his contribution
which
has
is
been.
fair, but when you say that the argument as to whether he's been able to achieve is settled by the elections, that's where the problem.
I'm saying that's where the
because that's where my departure from you is.
They were heckling him during the speech. And then he said, well, you will say what you will say, but I will say what I will say. Because even if you shout. And I'm saying that type of thing, the mood of the nation is not ready for that. We've passed that stage.
But these people are
we're not interested in that.
Okay, I have to go back to Parliament. Ayikwe spoke to the MP for Doma East on the Honourable Paul Aprekuchum-Berima. Let's see what he also said. So yes, indeed, we're back in the studio. Vivian, Lokko with Richard Scar as well as Bernard Avle. You just saw Ni Ayikwe Okine speaking with Paul Aprekuchum-Berima, the MP for Doma East. Alaska, you're on the floor. You're on the floor on the style of
I'm not really, look, the day to scrutinize the record of the government in terms of what it means for voters, I think that day is over. Because the government presented its record to voters against its promises on what to continue, and voters made a decision. I'm just saying that, again, I've not been president before, so I can say what I want and the president can choose what he wants to say. I am saying if I were part of his speechwriters, particularly because of the way he situated his victory in 2016 to the long-term aspirations of the Ghanaian, it would have been a tad better if the speech followed that same thrust. And I give you an example of the Gettysburg economy as an example. Because he was very profound in 2017 when he said that the economy we have is not amenable for development of people's well-being because it's not been transformed. Do you get it? So whether it's debt management, infrastructure development, all those things are part of that long-term journey of structural transformation. Do you understand my point? So it would have been better for me if he situated the speech in that context.
Okay.
He started that way, but somehow the speech went back to the regular, we did this against the person we took over from, and we've done better kind of thing, which I feel like is not really necessary now. Partly because the mood of the people is not even for that. We've had a lot of politics. We've had a lot of electoral discussion. We are focusing more about long-term structural issues. Do you understand? And I think, for example, on the Constitution, he was very clear on that, because a lot of people feel like Ghana cannot develop with the kind of constitution we have. We need a constitution that reduces the powers of the president, that gives more strength to local governance. And he said the constitution should not be tinkered with. So on one or two issues, he touched on those. But when it comes to things like healthcare, economy, it was very stark in comparison. And I felt like we are on a development journey. We're on a development journey. Our relationship with the international development partners, the way we handle the capital markets, the way we handle the financial sector. We need long-term transformation of those things if we will move away from simply being a promising liberal democracy to a transformative society. That's all I'm saying. Okay. I have no qualms about his mandate to deliver and the record reflecting what he said he has done. Okay. Again, when it comes to record, you can choose which specific ones to emphasize. He's done so many things he didn't even mention. So this is not even supposed to be comprehensive. The 8 years have enough things to show what he's done. And again, history. When people are at the end of their tenure, we feel a bit unhappy. With time, history will soften. It happens with all leaders. You said that in the morning. So I don't even think he needed to do any of, because in 4 or 5 years, we will remember some of the things. We did so for Mills, we did so for Rawlings, we did so for Kufuor, and Mahama has also had the same thing. So for a visionary leader like he is, and I'll tell you something, the first time I interviewed Akufo-Addo as a presidential aspirant in 2016, most of the answers he gave to my questions were about what he wants to do in the long term. He wasn't very much on tiny details. You can ask all these people. He's more, I want to do free SHS. I know the challenges, but I'll do it. He's that kind of guy. So that should shine through as well. Long-term building blocks of what he wants to achieve because we've been independent for over 60 years. All right. Having said that, I still think it was a good speech. It touched on almost every important aspect of society. He gave a good account of what he's tried to do. And the job is very tough. He gave some very good advice to the incoming government. He says, look, don't let us default on our debt. Don't take some things for granted. And Bagwin says something which I think summarizes everything. He said, look, guys, if you want to walk fast, walk alone. If you want to walk far, walk together. He was advising the new team that, guys, don't think that because you've won, it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
Even if there's a smaller minority, work with them. Because we are on a long-term development journey. Let's not be divided, let's be together. And I think Speaker Babin has been fantastic in the way he managed the House and how he ran the last thing he did today. So in a nutshell, I'll say, as part of my first submission, we are a country on the move. We are doing well, and I think Akufo-Addo has contributed his quota. Let's hope posterity will judge him objectively.
Okay.
Let's hope posterity will judge him objectively. As we have a few more years, we'll see how his contribution will be situated in the annals of our history. So that will be my submission.
Okay, so both have given us your prelim submissions. Let's look at some of the key things he spoke about. I want us to start with the issue about illegal mining. It was a big thing, even led to decisions for voters during the elections, and we saw the outcome of that. For some time now, a lot of people were expecting him to comment on the galamsey even before the election. Well, finally, he's done it. A little bit too late.
My comment on galamsey is, I felt that he still feels... I don't think I'm on the same page with him on galamsey, because he said he welcomes the community of new anti-galamsey people who joined the fight around October.
Yeah.
I mean, and he then mentioned how his attempt to fight galamsey in his first term cost him some parliamentary seats.
That's right.
I dispute those facts. We've done a show to show that, probably the exception of 1 or 2 constituencies, he cannot say factually that his fight against galamsey cost him an election. That's point number 1. Point number 2. The noise about galamsey in 2024 third quarter was not politically instigated. You are a news editor. Typically, this is how the news cycle works. Your correspondents in Ashanti, Central, Eastern, and Western, they will be covering water supply. The water people will take them to headworks and tell them that we can't process raw water. You will put those stories together, and it generates public anger, and galamsey comes up. So it's not as if somebody went to sit somewhere as a political party to say, we are going to use galamsey to make this government unpopular. So the way he brings the galamsey argument, for me, still fails to recognize the seriousness of the distraction in the last embers of his government.
Okay.
I think people were trying to use the fact that there's an election in terms of the galamseyers to push their way through to mine as much as they can irresponsibly, because they knew that they could hold either party to ransom. And I think the president could have been more decisive in dealing with it in that quarter than he did. To welcome all of us to the party again, a party he was part of from 2015. You were in Parliament in 2016, 2017, doing galamsey fight. So if he comes to town, tell you that the noise you were making in October is a new noise, it's not correct. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? So for me, it's not the right way to go. And then to at the same time talk about Ghana gaining plaudits from the World Bank, carbon credits, winning. Yeah. No, it's all together. If you cannot prevent people from destroying your environment and you reduce our advocacy to some political noise, I think it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
We shouldn't interpret everything from partisan politics. The galamsey advocacy, you had over 30 people come into this studio, chiefs, religious leaders. They came to read speeches.
Associations.
Were they looking for political power? It's not fair. Let's situate issues in the right context. We know that the people who do galamsey understand the political economy, and they exploit it when they find that political leaders are vulnerable. What political leaders need to do is to stand up and lead in times like that. Because when you destroy our environment, our posterity suffers. I think it's been one of his worst failures in terms of galamsey.
Yeah, galamsey.
And so that angle I did not agree with at all.
Okay.
All right. I did not agree with his angling and posturing on the galamsey fight and trying to make it seem as if it was some Johnny Just Camp people who were in the galamsey. No, that's not.
Okay.
We've done this galamsey thing for at least 9 years.
Yeah.
It's been administration agnostic. So I will not, so fine, he can put it in the Hansard. But we will also say it on air. So it's not what he says in that Hansard about galamsey. That is the overall record of galamsey. Because the galamsey fight and how it's being covered is there for all to see.
Yeah. Right. Richard?
Yeah, I mean,
on the galamsey matter.
I think, of course, there are things to celebrate, and of course, there are things to criticize. Because when we took up this fight, it was not because, there was somebody's presidency at stake, or that we felt that it was to help someone's political cause. We had been witnesses to the devastation that we were seeing across the country. Water bodies being polluted, forest reserves being decimated, people's farmlands were going. In some cases, churches and homes were being targeted by these guys. So it was important that we took up the fight. And I remember when we launched the campaign, we did videos, you can find on YouTube in those years, talking about the need for us to intervene and deal with it. Of course, when the government won power and we quickened the pace of the criticism, they were then forced to set up a presidential initiative to deal with the problem. And that was when he made the famous statement that he was putting his presidency on the line and all of that. I think we can celebrate him for making a bold decision that, look, this thing was a problem, let's deal with it, and putting my presidency on the line. And in fact, in those years, we celebrated him together with Peter Amewu, who was the minister at the time. And they did some good things, and they equally did some really bad things. Because, for instance, I didn't think that there was any presidential or executive wisdom in grabbing, earth-moving equipment and setting them on fire. When the law says there is a procedure for confiscation, there's an order that the court has to give in order to ensure that we can put those, implements or equipment to better use that will serve the interests of the state. Because recently, what did we do? We went to spend a lot of money to import earth-moving equipment so we can facilitate this DRIP agenda, which is what? Ensure that roads in the various districts and communities are in a better shape. Yeah. We imported them with money. Meanwhile, we were busy burning down, earth-moving equipment in in the galamsey areas, when the law says that's not how you handle it. You understand? So there are positive sides to what he did. He claims that because of his initiative, he lost some seats. Bernard says that the evidence doesn't support that. But of course, the records show that some seats were lost in these areas.
Which seats? Sky, we did a whole show on this. there was no evidence to that fact.
Bernard.
There was no evidence to that claim.
Hold on.
Barbara
Otinjesi. Did she lose her seat?
That Prestia Huni Valley, that was they had won the seat for the first time in decades in 2016.
And they lost it when?
In 2020.
So that's the point I'm making.
So how does that become a galamsey loss?
Hold on, Bernard.
A seat you won only once?
Bernard, hold on. The man said, Bernard, you see, the man says that as far as he was concerned, that is the fact for him, that some of the seats were lost as a result of his fight. That's the information that's available to. That's what he's saying. We can interrogate.
Even apart from
but you are saying that there's no evidence like that.
And I say that there's no relation. You see, Sky, we are journalists, so we can hold what duty bearers say to strict proof. I'm saying that based on analysis of the numbers, based on all the Western regional seats, I don't think it's factual to say that there was a causation of a galamsey fight with parliamentary seat loss.
Bernard, we have not done the research to establish a direct link between the two. The man is saying that is his claim.
And I dispute it.
But you
can dispute it with facts. I'm saying that in that region, I'm saying that in that region,
there's a problem.
Yes, there's no problem because in that region, even Takwa was still won by MPP.
You said that there was no the MPP did not lose any seat
on the basis.
This guy, I'm saying. I just told you that. Takwa in Sayem. What's the name of it?
Yeah, but it was not. But what is the evidence that was not based on galamsey? What's the evidence? The fact that a seat has been lost does that mean that was not because of galamsey?
Guys, let's move away from. Let's move away.
There's everything correlation and causation. The fact that a seat has been lost in 2020 does that make it a galamsey?
No. Let me finish my point.
What are you saying?
You have just 30 seconds.
No. Yes, that's right. Let me finish my point. So you see, he is stating a certain reality, right? We can critique the president on the authority of his pronouncement that, look, I am willing to put my presidency on the line. He is claiming on the strength of that his presidency has been put on the line as a result of that initiative. He claims that the current parliament we see is as a result of that. And that parliament, or this parliament, stifled his efforts to advance the cause of Ghana. We can interrogate that. On the whole, I am prepared to criticize the president that, look, in the last 4 years or so, we've not seen much on the galamsey fight. We were sitting on radio and criticizing him. We thought that a lot more needed to have been done, and the president didn't do that. But we should also be equally prepared to say that, look, in the first administration of his tenure, he did some good work. Except that all of those put together that do not seem to reflect, a positive fight against galamsey. I think, we should be fair in our assessment of his fight against galamsey.
Okay, another big, thing in the room was the issue of corruption and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, listening to him, he said one of his greatest achievements was setting up the OSP, and he believes it's
Has he allowed the OSP to?
Yes, so your thoughts on that?
You see, for me, Sky, I always go beyond the surface. You
can
set up an OSP. You can talk about increasing allocation to anti-corruption institutions. What was the relation between the Attorney General's Department and the OSP? Where's the OSP as we speak? Has he been, how many cases has he been allowed to pursue that the AG has taken up? So you can set the thing up. What was the evidence of the former OSP head about the role of the government in corruption fight? Okay, this OSP himself has had so many problems in setting up the institution. Credit to him, he's built the institution in terms of having the human resource to even fight corruption. We should always demand better. Justice must not just be done, but it must be manifestly done. Don't set up the institution with one hand and stifle it with another hand and say that we should praise you because you set it up. Set it up and let it work so we can see the result. We don't, in governance, I always use an outcome approach, not an output approach. Output is, I've set up the OSP. Outcome is, these are the cases we have prosecuted of our own people involved in corruption. I mean, if you exonerate somebody who has not even gone through a legal process in your first public comment about an issue with the person, what position do you put the OSP in to do their job? So setting it up is the output. The job they do and its effect is the outcome. And I'm saying, from a governance perspective, we must judge our leaders from the outcome, because it's the outcome that we want. We are not yet shouting because we want you to just say, I've increased allocation. has it reduced or has it resulted in a change in the outcome? That, at the end of the day, is what posterity will judge you by. The jury is still out, we wait to see. But on corruption, again, I don't think there's been a lot to cheer with this government when it comes to fighting corruption, particularly in the second term, as he says. First term was a bit different. The second term was where the really cookie crumbles, and we didn't see a lot of that.
Okay. All right. We have just about a minute to go, so I'll just take your your closing remarks, 30 seconds, and wrap up.
Well, quickly, I mean, on corruption.
Okay.
Look, I think we should look at the matter in the round. The reason being, the president didn't say that he has solved all of Ghana's corruption problems. And I did not initially agree with the idea of even setting up the OSP because I thought it was completely unnecessary. The AG's office, and we have Yoko and some other institutions, they have all their mandates and they can deal with this particular problem. But he thought that it was the way to go. They set it up. Of course, there were times that there were challenges with releasing money for the OSP to be able to do its job. But if the claim is made that the OSP was not allowed to do its job and that the AG should have taken some of its... No, the act establishing the OSP says it is an independent institution. So it should do its job. You get your investigations done, you get your records proper, go to the court and prosecute it. As to whether the OSP has been able to discharge its responsibilities fully to the credit of everyone there, it's an entirely different matter. The records show that, as we speak, we have not had a single proper conviction. Many of the cases are still under, litigation before the court. So if you talk about the mandate of the OSP, it would seem that under the previous head of the institution, Machenamidu, we've not achieved much in terms of securing conviction. Under the current leadership too, it seems that we still have a similar challenge. However, can we say that people have been, reprimanded? Can we say that some people became afraid as a result of the work of the OSP? Can we say that at SEPS, they ordered that some amount of money be refunded to the state? It is not always about securing conviction. It is also a question of what the message is sent to the people that, look, this is likely to happen to you. I do not admire the MPP in terms of how they handle the fight against corruption. But the president says that because of the measures that they have put in place, the Auditor General has returned a positive verdict that, he mentioned a figure, I've forgotten the figure. If that is anything to go by, that is something to measure him on and say that, he may not have done anything.
Just as 2 minutes. We started just as a few minutes. I agree with Sky on some points, you see, and I'm prepared to say that the mere fact that the office now exists in its full entirety is very important. And the impression we get from the incoming government is that they will work with the OSP, which is very important. So, which is why I separate the first thing. So, setting it up was a bold act. Putting Martinamidu there was very, very bold against the advice of his party members. Kisia Jabin has come to add to it. So now the institution is reasonably well equipped. All right? Governance is a continuum. What the NDC does with OSP may be Akufo-Addo's greatest legacy if they continue to equip it and allow the man to work. So I'm prepared to concede that you can't do everything in a year. But I'm just saying that sometimes your posture as a leader when it comes to corruption is as important as whatever resources you put into it. All right? So you don't set up an institution and give them money on one hand and then make public comment about matters they are looking into, exonerating a person you work with. That compromises their independence. Do you understand? You don't do that. When you do that, you are basically putting pressure on the guy and you are also creating an impression as if whatever you are doing may be a witch hunt. So at best, if you even believe that your person is not guilty, leave them at post. Do you understand? It's like I have a small committee to look at something in the newsroom. Then I go and tell the management meeting that I think that Sky is okay. Sky has done something. No? I've set up a committee to investigate him. Then I go to board and say, I think that Sky they was exonerated. I've compromised the work you are doing. Even if my person, I should allow.
Not necessarily.
No, it is. I should allow Sky. Hold on.
You've given a verdict already.
Sky.
Always speak. I have my difficulties with that.
Sky, let me finish my point. Okay. I am saying that. You see, I'm giving credit. You said we should give very credit to
that's
so why don't you want me to make?
You have made very fantastic point. I'm talking about something you are saying.
You are not the judge. So let me finish. I'm saying that the posture is as important as the policy.
That's true.
So you put in place a policy, but your posture must not undermine the policy that you have set out to implement. And I'm saying that that was one of the negatives. I am prepared to give him the credit for the boldness set it up against all odds and to put the kind of poll he put there. People we all in society respect.
That's right.
And for that, I'm prepared to give him the credit. But don't turn around and start exonerating and giving a free pass to your appointees
Okay,
when the work has not been done.
We have to end. We've gone by
I just want to make a small point. You see, it is unfair to tell the president, look, I have my difficulties with him in how he fought corruption.
Yeah.
Did so many bad things about how he handled it. And he also did some good things. What's the question? The Minister for Sanitation wrote a letter to the president to say that she was resigning because of A, B, C, and D, and that she was sure that she didn't do anything wrong. Of course, the tone of the letter, dear something, something, there were problems with that. I would say that any day. Then the president, in response to that letter, which is a letter to the person resigning from office, says that he said something to the effect that he was equally hopeful that, you know, in due course.
No, he said he was sure.
You're sure
that-
No, hold on. No, Bernard.
We just have to look for the
We
letter.
can check.
We can check it. But I do not recall the use of a word sure. You understand? We can go to the record.
It's okay.
So when that made it into the public domain, I have difficulties with that. And we should all have difficulties with it. But that should not be interpreted. When you put, you know, an interpretation on it and say that, oh, the president was already exonerating
But why can't we
the person.
Okay, gentlemen,
what is
we
the
have
reason
to
why
end
God gave
the
us a
show.
brain? If somebody has written a
That was
letter,
not-
why can I not put an interpretation on it?
Exactly.
And why do I
We
do
have to go. Our time is up. We
It
have
was
to
to
go.
say that, look,
Thank you very much, Mr. Sky. Thank you very much, Bernard.
We can put any interpretation based on our understanding of the
On
letter.
the field in Parliament, we had Nyayiko Okan as well as Charles Owusu-Kumi. Back here, we
I'll
had
meet him on the
Fred
6th of January.
Javano as well
I'll meet him on the 6th of January in Parliament.
Achua Tenkrama, Ijubi Wiafi, and all others who helped us, as well as the
I'll meet you on
production
6th
team
January.
on field and here, JB's team and everybody. Thank you so much. We'll continue the discussions on the president's
But
final
what
state of
will
the nation address, yes. And then we would also be bringing you some live coverage tomorrow of the High Court case, the parliamentary issues. And then on the 7th, the 6th and 7th of January, as well as the inauguration, we'll be bringing you everything you need to know from morning all the way till everything is done. So you want to stay with us at City 97.3 FM, as well as...
I want to add to your point. No, the word he used was confident. Which
I'm confident.
No, but you should listen to it fully.
over.
It says, I am confident, like
brother.
you, that at
Like
the end
you.
of the day, right?